I would start off with saying, if you ever need to talk about it, I'm here. They may brush you off and say, I don't know what you're talking about, or you just gave them that glimmer of hope that there's someone that they can talk to.
Hay que vivir sin excusas.
Algunas veces tienes dudas que tus sueños no se puedan cumplir. No encuentras la manera ni el camino que puedas seguir. No te demores.
Good evening, everybody. Today is Thursday, May 25th, 2023, and I am Lilian Maldonado, your host for Conversations with Ajusta Tu Corona. This program is about stories of tragedy to triumph, victim to victorious, however you want to look at it. It is about victims of adversity who have managed, have healed, have brightened their lives and saw a beautiful future and are currently living a beautiful life thanks to the courage of moving on. So tonight we have an amazing guest. Her name is Annamaria, and I'm going to butcher your last name, Pascente. So she is a social worker currently studying her master's, and she's coming on here to discuss the breaking of generational cycles. She's going to explain to you what is a generational cycle, tips to start healing from them or working through them. And she has an amazing story. So let me bring her on so she can share it with us. Hi, Anna.
Hi, Lillian.
So
Hi, everyone.
Yes, if you are in the audience and you are friends with Annamaria, give us a little shout, say hi, type in your comments, let her know that you're here to support her. And we're going to get started. So, one of the first things that I always say, and I typically get the same answer, but I'd like to hear it from you, is what made you decide to be a social worker? That is a very giving and of yourself a lot.
It is. And the common answer is the passion, right? To be a social worker, you have to have a passion to want to help others. My passion is to help others, but also to make an impactful change. I myself was a victim of domestic violence. I also came from a family that I witnessed domestic violence. And not having that outlet on being able to speak about it actually pushed me to become a social worker, and especially in the therapy fields. Social workers can work in many fields, but I chose to do more of talk therapy. I wanted to be able to help women, not just women, but anyone that felt trapped, anyone that was going through difficult times, to be able to overcome it. One of my best sayings is, I don't ignore the feelings. You have to feel the feelings and go through the feelings in order to heal. A lot of people do the whole avoidance thing because they want to be strong and they feel, no, I can't feel it. I need to just overcome it. But feeling it and going through it is most important, just not staying in those feelings and learning how to overcome them. So.
That's awesome. And I say a lot of the same. Oh, Sharissa McKinney is on. She says, good evening. Hello, Sharissa. Welcome. When going through your domestic violence relationship, how far did you allow it to get before you decided that it was unhealthy?
So I will be honest, it started with something that I thought love, right? I needed to be there by a certain time, or if I wasn't there by a certain time, they would meet me where I was. And I thought that was love, protection. It came to the point that it was abuse, being physically hit with hands, with items being dragged down staircases. And it took me quite some time. I want to say it was about a year of going through that to then finally say, I can't do this anymore. And then it was an on and off for a while. And then finally, it was a complete cutoff.
It's, a lot of people don't understand why we stay or why we have that attachment. Um, Once we realize we're not being treated right, we just can't seem to break off completely. Just like you said, I was in the same situation. I was being severely abused at a young age and I left, but then I went back.
Yeah.
And then I did the on and off as well until.
Yeah. And during that time, I was also going through something personal with family, is when my parents decided to separate. And I wanted that person to be my sense of protection, that person to feel that they're going to be there and I'm going to be okay, even during this difficult time that I was facing with family. Um, Do I feel that they took advantage of that? Yes. If they would have just spoken to me about why, like it's like they wanted their cake and eat it too, because at the same time they were having outside relationships that I didn't know about, but yet they didn't want to let me go. So it was just having their cake and eating it too, and at the same time feeling like, okay, if I do this, she won't go anywhere.
Hmm, always the controlling.
Yep.
That's what it's all about. Can you tell us? Our topic this evening is breaking generational cycles. Can you explain to our audience what that is?
So yeah, it's something that we're common, like for me, for instance, I'll give you a personal experience seeing my mom go through it, and it's common within my culture. It's acceptable within my culture to witness that, and then going through it on your own and saying, okay, this is what it's supposed to be. So breaking that generational cycle is saying, okay, no, this is not the way. This is not healthy. And working through that so you can be a healthier person, be in healthier relationships, be in a healthier lifestyle, living a healthier lifestyle. So breaking those generational cycles is difficult. You may get some pushback, some resistance from those around you, but is being a better you, a healthier you.
Fantastic. How would you tell someone to start breaking their cycle?
So as a social worker, we always got to meet the clients where they're at. So I've had clients that have that lived their life based off of what they witnessed and what their parents did or what family did, and basically having them go with the pros and cons. Like, is this is what you saw and this is the outcome, and what sort of lifestyle you want to live, and going through the pros and cons of that and empowering them, showing them what is healthy, right? Because our definition of healthy could be two totally different definitions. But what is healthy, and helping them that way.
I'm going to give you an example and you tell me what you believe is, well, I'm going to give you the example and you decide. So I was absolutely horrible, horrible with money. Spent all my money, shopped online nonstop, did whatever I want, never gave a second thought to money. Now that I'm reaching the age where I should be close to retirement, I'm like, oof, I have totally like changed my ways. And one of the things that I used to say all the time is, I never learned that at home. My parents never spoke to us about money. They would make us pay, a small rent weekly, our brothers and sisters. But as far as everything else, we were never taught to invest, to save. My mom is a huge spender as well. And I say, I'm just like my mom. I'm never going to change.
So one thing that I would one thing that I would first think is, are they trying to cover something up with their spending, right? Are materialistic things is what making them happy? What else are they lacking elsewhere? Um, as far as, yeah, not not being taught to save, not being taught to save for a rainy day is, a lot of parents have done that. I think today is in today's generation is where we're actually worrying about the future, worrying about saving for a rainy day. Um so is it healthy to say, "Oh, okay, my mom didn't do it, so I won't do it?" No, because even the lifetime of your mom, when your mom was your age, what was acceptable then? What was viewed as, I mean, like for instance, in my mom's time, the man took care of the household, the man was the provider, the woman stood at home and cared for the children. Whereas in today's generation, men and women are equal. We both go to work, we both provide. So just because your mom did it or spent their money that way or didn't do certain things doesn't necessarily mean that you have to follow in those same footsteps.
So, where would I start to break that cycle?
I would start with the patient. Like say if you were my patient, I would
Mhm.
say, okay, are you the sole provider in your household? Yes, and even if you're not, I always think that women should have their own bank account. Um, and it's not like some people say, "Oh, is it because you're hiding it from your spouse?" No, that's not necessarily what it's for. I just think that women should be able to have their own spending money, their own savings account. So budgeting, the first thing is to budget. Um, having money that you set aside for savings that you don't touch, having money that you set aside as a fun account. Like for me, people think I'm crazy, but I have in the savings account I don't touch. I have a savings account that is my fun account. I have a self-care savings account, and then of course I pay my bills out of another account. So I would start with a budget and being realistic, because so many people say, "Yeah, I need to save," but if you don't have money to be able to enjoy life, what are you saving for?
Mm, it's true. Yeah, I'm working on that with one of my children too. So, one of the things that I currently went to visit my children, and because I'm in a different situation, I was able to spoil them a little bit. And my son-in-law said, "Don't spend money in front of him because you know that he doesn't have it. Like, don't go crazy spending money when you know that he doesn't have it." And I was like, "Ooh, I never thought of that." So him seeing me spending makes him desire more, desire to have money to spend when he should be saving.
Saving.
Yeah. So a little lesson learned this past couple of weeks. Um, so I know that cycles can be negative habits, but when it comes to domestic violence, can you give us more things that you would say to a person that is going through it or just remove themselves from it?
So a person that goes is going through domestic violence, like one of the things we spoke about, I think of abuse. When someone says abuse to me, it's not just physical, it's verbal, it's mental, it's emotional. Um, so a lot of, I would say, women, right? Although we will touch on the men as well, but a lot of women remain in domestic violence relationships because they are dependent on the male, whether it's financially, whether it's emotionally. It could be, yes, they have children, because I hear that a lot with my clients. Oh, it's I stay because of the kids. I stay because of the kids. And I try to explain to them long term, if the relationship is not healthy, even if you don't argue in front of the kids, let's just say, kids are smart, so they're able to see or understand when their parents are not happy. So long term it's going to affect them. So a lot of what I try to tell my clients is first find out why are they staying in those sort of relationships. I never encourage clients to leave unless that's what they want to do. The first thing I do suggest is couples therapy, just to see if it could be something that could be rekindled. In some client situations, it is financial. Not necessarily, for instance, that the man, I don't want to say purposely, but it could be a financial struggle that they're going through, and the man doesn't know how to communicate about what's happening. Or maybe they grew up in a household where that's how they saw things handled, like dominating, the oh, what I say goes and what I say you do. And I mean, that has gotten me personally in trouble. I've always been a very outspoken person. And it's not common in my culture, right? It's usually the woman listens to the man. But I've always been outspoken. So when a woman stands up to a man that doesn't accept that, it just causes more friction, more fire.
The
So the
rebel.
Right.
Mhm.
So the first thing I try to understand is what's going on. Why are you staying there? Have you tried couples therapy? And if not, I do suggest couples therapy. Not a lot of men are open to it. Therapy is something that's frowned upon, which I want to say maybe within the past decade, it's more and more openly spoken about. But I have noticed that men are more resistant on going to therapy. I don't need to go and talk to someone about my problems.
Absolutely.
So that's how I first approach it. And then let's say, for instance, even let's say it's not the case, right? Let's say it's absolutely at the point where the woman's like, no, I don't want to continue here. Um, I do empowerment. A lot of women that remain or are in abusive relationship, there's a low self-esteem, there's low confidence, and trying to build up that confidence, giving them strategies on how to become independent, I think is important, because they have to feel strong enough to leave. And until they know and feel that they can do this and there's other people out there to support them, they will continue to remain in those circumstances.
Yeah, I know. That's sad. It's like we wish that we could just pull them along and say, come on, let's go, because we know, but like it is a journey. Everyone has to go through it. And we pray and hope that you come out of it alive,
Right.
because it's gotten so bad. It just
Yes.
gets worse and worse every year.
Yes.
So Sharissa is asking, how do people come to you for counseling if they would like to reach out for help? Sharissa, we were going to bring that on towards the end of the program, but because you have asked, we will now show you her contact information. She has a phone number that I wish not to share because I don't want everyone in the world getting her number in case it is not for actual counseling or therapy. So she has an Instagram page with her business, Blossoming Social Worker, blossoming underscore social worker. You may reach out to her on her Instagram page and she will contact you, and she can give you her phone number, and you are to text her before you call her. Okay. So that is, we'll bring this again back up again towards the end. Um, what's another generational cycle that is huge that you have to deal with?
Um, a lot of my clients that I've seen is what they have or what parents have instilled in them of their capabilities. Um, for instance, I have two clients that are coming to mind, like they limit themselves, right? And it's because what they've been told. You're stupid, you're dumb, you can't do it. Um, And those constant things, even whether it's from parents, from siblings, those constant things that are being told to them actually limit themselves from being the best that they can. Some of the techniques that I do use with them is CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy. That's having basically reconstructing your thoughts, which leads to different behaviors. Empowerment is another one. Strength based therapy is another one, and that's basically pulling out their strengths, focusing on their strengths and not their weaknesses. I mean, we all have weaknesses, but those weaknesses can always turn into strengths. um there's another one that I want to speak about, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, and also DBT. And that's something that I think is more commonly used within the past decade, and that's mindfulness. So many people don't understand how being in tune with yourself, with your feelings, meditating, self care, journaling. I do encourage everyone to journal daily. Um, Showing gratefulness, starting your day with being thankful and grateful for what you have. I'm big on positive affirmation cards. A lot of people think it's corny, but it does help. I have one particular client that she's actually a teenager. She's like, I'm not doing that corniness. I'm not going to sit this and read this out loud. And during our sessions, we do it together. And she goes, wow, it does work. So I said, you don't have to put it on. I mean, I always want them to put it somewhere where it's visual, where they can see it every day. But teenagers nowadays are all into technology. So even putting it on your phone and going through it daily. Um, so yeah, some of the cycles that I see, common cycles, are what's being told to them, the negative things, also childhood trauma, single parent households, dads that are not there, um,
Can we
parents.
can we touch on that?
Yes.
Single parent households. So I was a single parent household for basically all three of my children. And I feel, you do the best that you can within your means. Why is it that when the mother sacrifices so much, to take care of the household and the children just think that the father is like, a chocolate brownie, like the best thing that ever happened, and the father doesn't get any of the back talk or disrespect that the single mom, the single person household gets.
So we live in a world where a lot of people feel that the reason why the dad is not involved is because the mom doesn't allow them to be involved, right? One of the things I always tell people, the only person that can keep a parent away from their children is the court. And it's not necessarily like, for instance, in your case, it's not always, yes, I kept him away. No. But when that parent is not there, and then, for instance, they pop in every once in a while, they get older, and now the children want to rekindle their relationship with the parent that wasn't there, it's like they're yearning for that. Like, finally, I get to experience this. So that's where the reward comes. The reward comes like, this is what I was missing, not necessarily appreciating, in your case, what you did, all the sacrifices that you did. As they get older and they start experiencing life, then they will understand, like, wow, my mom sacrificed this. My mom had to go through this. But initially, they're just so happy to be able to have that relationship with the parent that wasn't there, um, that they could do no wrong. Um, and it's a blame thing. Like, I mean, you watch television shows, you watch movies, in many instances it's like they show how the father tries to come, and no, no, and the mom's like, no, no, you can't see your children. let's say for instance. So it's always that mindset, like my mom kept me away from my dad. um so I think having those open conversations, like, someone asked me, what do I do? I have a client, like, what do I do? Like, the is not consistent. He says he will show up and then he doesn't, and I'm the one dealing with the child that's wondering why the dad didn't come. you
Mhm.
know Having those open conversations is important, you know, not in full detail because it also depends on the age of the child, but letting them know that, your dad can come whenever you want. We also live in a world where, a society where it's very common that moms will bash the dads, right?
Mhm.
And that's where I also try to explain to the parents, whatever happens with the parents needs to stay with the parents. Because at the end of the day, good or bad, right or wrong, there's always a mom and there's always a dad. And the child is the innocent one in there. So I think, to answer your question, I feel that it's just that reward, that yearning of wanting that other parent and finally having that relationship. So whatever little bit they can get, it's like the world to them.
Yeah. Okay. When can you give a parent some pointers onto how to guide their children on the domestic violence going on around them?
Like in the
Is
household.
there in the household? Yes.
So one of the things I always encourage parents is, and it's hard, right? Because we don't live in a perfect world. At the end of the day, we're all humans, right? Is not to argue in front of their children. Um, to discuss things that may become heated or escalate in the privacy of their bedroom, or when their children are not around. Um, if it does escalate to their child witnessing, whether it's verbal abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, I think at that point, as mature adults, they have to sit down and say, okay, how are we going to fix this? Um, what are we going to do? Are we going to go to therapy and learn how to communicate better? Are we doing individual therapy? Are we doing family therapy? Are we sending our children to therapy? A lot of children that come from domestic violent households are always taught whatever happens in the house stays in the house. Um, and it's so hard to do therapy with that population, because as a social worker, digging and digging to try to get out what's going on is very difficult. Especially within, like, I have two teenagers, they're sisters, and there was abuse within the household, and one of them, I mean, they both have a hard time speaking about feelings. Um, that's because they don't feel like their feelings are being acknowledged. They feel that they don't have a voice at home. A lot of parents are still thinking children should be seen and not heard. Um, so trying to pull it out. So what I did with these two teenage girls is, what I do, individual therapy, and then once a month I pull the mom into the session with us separately, working on active listening, communicating feelings. Um, the dad, unfortunately, is not in the picture. The stepdad is in the picture, but he refuses to attend therapy. So we just work on the relationship with the mom and the children and the two siblings, because it has rubbed off on the siblings. The way the two siblings speak to each other, the way they act with each other, you would think they're a married couple. The voices, the words that come out. So now what I started doing is also bringing the two siblings into therapy together.
It's really heartbreaking. Do
Yeah.
you do you believe that children that witness domestic violence will become abusers
Yes.
and most likely will go into a relationship where there is domestic violence?
Yes. For me, for instance, so because I witnessed abuse in the household, as a child, it was normal to me when I went through it, until I realized that it wasn't normal. It wasn't love. It wasn't the way a relationship should be. And then as a young adult, I was very angry. So I did the controlling, I did the down talking, I did the manipulation, I guess, in a sense, and until I had to acknowledge, wait a second, like I'm doing the same thing I witnessed. So I had to break those cycles and say, no, like this is not how you speak to your partner. This is not how you treat your partner. Um, so yeah, most likely they will become abusers or be in an abusive relationship because it's normal to them.
Send your kids to therapy.
I personally feel that
Send your kids to therapy.
yes, I feel that everyone should go to therapy at least once in their life.
Oh, I truly believe it, and more so now. Like I'm, everyone needs someone to talk to, and this is why so many tribes have been created. So many, women tribes, so many empowerment tribes, because we all need to be heard. We all have a story to share. So it's very important not to turn your back on someone that needs to say things or someone who's hurting.
Mhm. You know, it's easy to tell someone to get over it. Like for instance, you said like it's so easy to want that person to get out of that abusive relationship, especially when you've been in one or even if you haven't and you know that it's not healthy. But having that person understand their self-worth, understand what love really looks like,
Mhm.
um, what respect really looks like, and knowing and them knowing that there is better out there, there is more out there, right? Even the abuser, like a lot of people, oh, he's just an abuser or she's just an abuser. Um, why? Why are they doing this abuse? And I don't think anyone wakes up and says, I just want to abuse people. It stems from what they witnessed, it stems from maybe what they've been through. Um, so they need the therapy as well to help break that cycle.
Wow. Tell me about children that haven't had enough love, or a person. Doesn't even have to be children. Someone that hasn't had enough love.
They seek love in all the wrong places. They want that love, whatever it is to fill that void. Um, so particular my teenage girls, right? Their mom came from a childhood where I mean, she came from the Dominican Republic, and when she moved here with her dad and her siblings. And her dad moved on to another relationship, which they weren't accepting, for instance. And he put them in one house, and he lived a whole nother life in a separate home. So they basically raised themselves. So she has this tough skin, this tough love, and I work with her and basically saying, it's okay to provide. That's great. The roof over the head, the food in the stomach, the clothes on their back, but the listening, the hugs, the kisses, the I'm here for you, it's one thing I have a hard time is with parents allowing their children to express themselves. Because they're like, I'm the parent. They're not going to tell me what to do. And I have to tell them just because they're expressing themselves doesn't mean you have to follow, but you have to allow them to talk about their feelings. Um, so yeah, people that are not used to receiving the love, um, they fill that void in other places. And I want to say mainly females, they would, wherever they can get that little bit of attention, that little bit of love, that's love to them. I think when it comes to males in particular, it's hard for them to love. to
Mm.
show love, because they were never shown love. So how can you show something that you never received?
I just had a family reunion not too long ago, probably about a month ago, month and a half ago, and we learned all of this. Like all my generation learned about the older generation and what they went through, and it just made us appreciate and understand and decide to break the generational cycle. I'm very lovey-dovey. I'm hugging, kissing everybody. and
Yeah,
and I believe it makes a big difference.
it
I'm
does. It
also a
makes
big
a huge,
smiler.
yeah, it makes a huge difference to feel that love, to feel that comfort, right? It's not just, oh, this person loves me, but I'm comfortable around this person. I feel safe around this person. And I think that parents are the first place where that love and that safety net should come from. Um, I feel that this generation, my generation, we're strong, but we're broken. And we don't know how to speak about our brokenness, right? We were taught to what's the saying? Pull your boots by the strap and keep it moving, or something like that,
Mhm.
and where do you speak about that brokenness? So I think today's generation is where we're working on allowing them to speak about their feelings, to speak about their hurt, and helping them heal through it. But yeah, I agree. Like, I don't think growing up I was able to tell my mother, "Oh, this bothers me or this hurts me." And I mean, even if I did, she'd be like, "What do you mean?" Like, look at me like I have 10 heads, and not really understand, because she came from a generation where they didn't talk about those things.
Mhm. So, do you believe that they say that this generation now is soft because they didn't have that tough skin that we were supposed to have back in the day?
So I have mixed feelings about that, right? I do like the fact that this generation talks about feelings, but I also feel that this generation also sometimes uses it as a crutch.
Mm.
Um, like, for instance, let's say anxiety, and I'll be honest, I'm one that suffers from anxiety myself, and I don't think I did as a child, and if I did, I didn't know I was going through it, but as an adult, I have. And yes, the anxiety is there, but if we sit there and just focus, okay, I'm anxious and it's going to stop me or limit me from doing anything, how am I going to progress? So I think that when people say, because I've heard this before, like, oh, as therapists, you're making this generation soft. And I'm like, no, I'm not making them soft. I'm teaching them that they could speak about their feelings, they can feel their feelings, but helping them figure out how to overcome and grow from it and not let it be a crutch is my goal.
Awesome. So, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna like retouch on a couple of things
Sure.
on breaking generational cycles. And you tell me, because I got from you the exact methods that you use. But for those of us who are not in therapy yet, and to break it down in smaller terms, you have to become self aware of the destructive pattern. So I had to learn that I was spending money wildly more on wants instead of needs. And I had to put a halt to that. I'm working on it every day. It is an everyday thing that I have to go through. Educating yourself about your family history, as she stated. Why are you like that? Why are we abusers? Why do we allow to be abused? Why do we not feel loved? Why can't we show love? So those go back somewhere along the cycle. Take accountability to own your part. Okay, so my mom was a big spender. That doesn't make it right. I have to acknowledge that it is a negative behavior and I have to break that cycle. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. Anna Maria's fabulous. Reach out to her. Ensure that it stops with you. My parents were not lovey dovey, also. They were very into church, and considering that they were very into the church, I felt that they weren't very lovey dovey, but I chose to be very lovey dovey with my kids. And thank God, I'm happy that I am. I'm very close to all of them, and they all speak to me and speak their minds. And back to accepting that generational cycles are our responsibility to break. Don't say, oh, my mom was like that, so I'm going to be like that. I can't change. That's just the way I am. I can't stand that saying. And I have heard it so much. And unfortunately, I hear it a lot from men. I can't change. That's just the way that I am. Seek professional help if this goes deeper and it's psychologically. What is the difference if it's psychologically or not?
So abuse affects your mental health. It affects a lot of people that are abused are depressed. A lot of people that are abused uh, have low self-esteem. That's part of depression. Have anxiety, are unsure of themselves, unsure, like are also dependent, right? Constant codependency. A lot of people that are in
Mm.
abusive relationship are very much in codependent relationships. I need that person. You don't need that person. You need you. That person should help empower you, but feeling like you need that person to survive, then that's codependency.
Oh, wow. So there's a lot of that in the world.
Yes.
Oh, this was a great conversation, Anna Maria.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Oh my gosh. I am going to definitely have you back because you shared so much and I so appreciate it. Is there a message you would like to share with our audience before we end the show?
Yeah, change is possible. I like that you said that because I feel everyone has the ability to change just when they're ready to change. Um, I feel if you need to talk to someone, don't be afraid. Even if you don't know what you're going to talk about, it's not necessarily your job to come to a therapist and say, this is what I'm going to talk about. It's the therapist's job to find out what the goals are, um, and work with the client from where they are. And so much comes from it. I mean, even clients that don't want to come to therapy and are mandated to come to therapy, whether it's from the court or whether it's from their parents, so much comes from it. Um, so, therapy, don't be scared of therapy. Therapy will just only help you heal, will help you grow into a better you.
Awesome. Remember, you are amazing. You are loved. You are exceptional. Adjust that crown and keep it moving. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.